They were just words. Careless, sharp, flung across the breakfast table with the indifference of teenagers who think food appears by magic and houses hold themselves up. You're only here because mom can't handle life alone. Logan said it. 14. Slouched in his chair, spoon halfway to his mouth. He didn't even look at me when he said it, just stared at his phone, like the sentence meant nothing. Aiden, his older brother, laughed. Not loud, just enough to show agreement. Enough to mark the line. Vanessa, my wife, their mother, blinked, paused mid-sip of her coffee, and then said nothing. Not a word. Not a glance in my direction. Like she hadn't heard it. Like it didn't matter. But it did. It sat in the air like smoke. Thick, stinging. I stood there with a stack of clean laundry in my arms. Shirts folded, socks paired, boxers sorted. My shirt was on top. They wouldn't have noticed. They never noticed. I placed the clothes down and walked away without a sound. In the hallway, I stopped beside the thermostat I'd installed last fall when the heat kept kicking on too hard and raising our bill. I remembered spending 3 hours on that. Pulling wires, checking breakers, trying to save the house $30 a month. $30 they didn't know they owed me. My name is Nathan. I'm 42. For the past 8 years, I've lived in a house outside Denver with Vanessa and her 2 sons from her previous marriage, Aiden, 17, and Logan, 14. Their father, Shane, is a man built out of photographs and broken promises. Every 6 months, like clockwork, he appeared with a new haircut and some overpriced gift he didn't earn. A PlayStation, a drone, a just because envelope of cash. Then he'd vanish. No calls, no schedule, no structure. But I was the one who stayed. I was the one up at 5 to make coffee before Vanessa left for work. The one who replaced the shingles after the last storm ripped through in March. The one who picked up Logan from football practice when no one else remembered it ended at 6:15, not 6:30. I paid for the house. All of it, the mortgage, the insurance, the light bill, the grocery trips. Aiden's laptop? Mine. Logan's braces? Mine. Their bedrooms, their mattresses, their winter jackets. Mine. And still, you're only here because mom can't handle life alone. I didn't react. Not right away. Reactions are what they want. Something to scoff at. A reason to call you dramatic. Instead, I started watching. Listening. That weekend, I overheard Aiden on the phone in his room. Door cracked just an inch. Nah, he's not my real dad. Just mom's boyfriend or whatever. Pays for stuff, nags a lot. He's just there. He said boyfriend, not husband. He said just there. 8 years. I used to come home to silence. A quiet apartment where I could think. Before Vanessa. Before the boys. I had a 1-bedroom off 12th and Maple, 2nd floor unit. The faucet leaked, and the blinds were cracked, but it was mine. I delivered packages for UPS, ate dinner standing at the kitchen counter, and slept like a stone every night. And then came Vanessa. Beautiful in that tired way people don't notice unless they've lived long enough to know what exhaustion really looks like. She had 2 sons and no stability. The boys were 6 and 9 when we met. Messy, loud, already halfway feral. Their dad had bailed again, and Vanessa was working part-time at a call center while trying to finish an online degree. I stepped in because I could. Not out of pity, out of purpose. She never asked me to be a savior. But the house was falling apart, the power shut off once a month, and dinner came in plastic bags. So I fixed things, repaired the gutters, bought furniture, filled the fridge, and slowly they got used to the idea of being safe. But not the idea of being grateful. Vanessa stopped working after 2 years. Said she'd focus on the home. That meant laundry, errands, sometimes cooking when she wasn't exhausted. I never complained. Why would I? She had raised 2 boys mostly alone, and I thought this is what a man does. He carries what others can't. But the weight never evened out. The boys grew. So did their resentment. Aiden started treating me like a substitute teacher he didn't respect. Logan flinched every time I asked him to do anything that resembled responsibility. If I told them to clean their room, I was controlling. If I asked about their grades, I was obsessed. Every time Shane showed up, they lit up like orphans at a reunion. He brought nothing but smiles and promises. No discipline, no structure, just short bursts of attention wrapped in expensive boxes. Then he disappeared again. And when he left, I was the one who got the anger. They blamed me for being tired, for wanting quiet, for turning off the Wi-Fi after midnight so Logan would sleep, for asking Aiden to get a job when he turned 17. I remember last winter, Christmas morning. Shane didn't show as usual, but he had sent a PS5 in the mail with a note. "Love, Dad. I'll see you soon." The boys cheered, and Vanessa smiled like it was enough. They didn't ask who paid the rest of the rent that month. They didn't know that I skipped renewing my car registration to buy groceries before New Year's. They didn't care. That morning, after Logan's little comment at the table, I went down to the basement. Not to cool off, to look around. The boiler in the corner, I installed the new valve last year. The shelves, I built them from scrap wood. The flooring, me on my knees for 2 weekends straight. Every inch of that house had my fingerprints. But I wasn't seen, just used. I started counting the quiet betrayals. Vanessa telling me we were partners, but deferring to Shane whenever the boys wanted something. Logan rolling his eyes every time I spoke. Aiden walking out of the room when I entered, as if I polluted the air. Every smile from Vanessa followed by silence when her sons mocked me. Every thank you left unsaid. Every sigh, every stare. Every moment I was treated like the help, not the man who kept the roof from collapsing. I was the scaffolding holding up a building that resented its own structure. And I realized something I hadn't let myself admit for years. I wasn't part of the family. I was a system, a machine, an appliance that dispensed order, money, and chores. And like all machines, they assumed I'd keep running, no matter what, until the morning Logan said it. "You're only here because Mom can't handle life alone." And I thought, what if I showed them what that actually looks like? 3 days passed before they said it again. Not the exact words, no, that would have been too easy. This time it came wrapped in laughter. Casual, thoughtless, like something they'd always believed. We were eating dinner. Chicken I made. Rice I steamed. The kitchen still smelled like garlic and burnt oil. Vanessa hadn't cooked in 2 weeks, but she still set the table like she'd done all the work. Aiden was complaining about school, about teachers, about rules, about how tired he was. He leaned back in his chair like he owned the air. "Honestly," he muttered, stabbing at his food, "everything's gonna be easier when he finally leaves." Logan laughed. "For real, like all he does is remind us of crap. It's like living with an unpaid life coach." I looked up. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Aiden kept going. "Mom just puts up with it because she can't do this on her own. She'd fall apart." I waited. Just 1 second. 2. I stared at Vanessa. She blinked. Then nothing. She kept eating. Just nodded vaguely, as if the conversation was happening in another room. Like they were talking about someone else. Like I wasn't right there. That was the moment. Not Logan's words. Not Aiden's tone. Not even the insult itself. It was her silence. Her agreement. Her cowardice. Because silence is always agreement when you're the only one who could have spoken up. I didn't throw my fork. Didn't stand up. Didn't even speak. I chewed, swallowed, and felt something inside me shift. It was like hearing the final click on a lock. Something closed. After dinner, I went out to the yard. The porch creaked under my weight. Wind moved the branches just enough to make the chimes sing. I stood on the grass and looked at the house. The gutters I replaced last fall. The porch I rebuilt after it started rotting. The lawn I mowed every week. The motion sensor lights I wired to keep the driveway safe. All of it because I stayed. Because I gave. Because I built. And they'd rather I disappeared. They wanted to see what it looked like without me? Fine. Let them. That night, I lay next to Vanessa, eyes open, listening to her breath. She slept like she hadn't betrayed me. I reached over and grabbed my phone, opened my email, bookmarked an apartment complex across town. Not fancy, not big, but clean, quiet, solitary. In the morning, I scheduled a tour, took time off work, Signed the lease that same afternoon. A one-bedroom, month to month. Utilities included. Next, I called the electric company. Transferred the account out of my name. Did the same for water, internet, gas. Everything. Then I booked a moving truck, not a big one. Just enough for my tools, clothes, and the coffee table I built when I thought we were becoming a real family. I made a checklist. Nothing dramatic. Just efficient. Every night for the next 2 weeks, I packed a little more. Aiden noticed first. Walked past the open boxes in the garage, the bubble wrap on the counter, the empty hooks where my jackets used to hang. "You going somewhere?" he asked. "Yes." That was all I said. He looked at me, squinted, like he was trying to decide if it was a joke. Then he shrugged and walked off. Logan didn't even pretend to notice. He was too busy yelling into his headset, killing digital enemies while I disappeared in plain sight. Vanessa finally noticed the boxes when I moved them into the living room. "What's all this?" "I'm leaving," she laughed. Not a big laugh. Just one of those dry little exhales people use when they think you're bluffing. Right? "Sure you are. I signed a lease. I move next Saturday." Her smile faded. "Wait, you're serious?" "I gave this family 8 years, and the only thing I've earned is contempt. They're just kids, Nathan. They don't know how. They know enough to laugh while they talk about me leaving. And you? You said nothing." She opened her mouth, closed it again. That was the last real conversation we had. I kept packing. The boys stopped asking questions. Vanessa started making calls. Friends, family, old coworkers. Anyone who might be able to help once I was gone. I heard her whispering into the phone, asking how hard it was to open a utility account. How long it took for late notices to turn into disconnections. One night, I caught her staring at the thermostat like it was a foreign object. She didn't even know how to reset it after a power outage. "Who used to handle that?" Logan asked her once. She didn't answer. The questions started stacking up. "When's the trash pickup? Why is the sink leaking again? What's the password for the Wi-Fi?" They didn't know. They never had to know. Because I was there. I was the system. The unseen muscle moving everything they took for granted. The closer we got to move-out day, the quieter the house became. No jokes. No mockery. Just tension. I think Aiden expected me to crack. To change my mind. Vanessa too. She kept waiting for a big speech. For me to break down and admit it was just anger. Just a phase. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make threats. I didn't cry. I just removed myself from their lives one item at a time. Friday night before the move, I unplugged the TV and packed it into the truck. Aiden watched from the stairs. "Wait, that's yours?" "Bought it with my bonus last year. Receipts in my name." He didn't argue, just sat down and stared at the wall. I loaded the rest: tools, my grandfather's chair, my books, the framed photo of me and Vanessa on our trip to Utah. The one where she said it was the happiest she'd ever been. She didn't try to stop me. Not once. Just watched like someone observing a stranger pack up a motel room. Saturday morning came. Logan was in the kitchen making cereal with water. The milk was gone. No one had gone shopping. Aiden stood in the hallway, arms crossed. Vanessa leaned against the doorframe. "You're really doing this?" she asked. "Over one comment?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this because you showed me who I am in this house." An afterthought. They're teenagers. They say things. And you say nothing. That's worse. I closed the last box, carried it to the truck. The sky was overcast. The air smelled like rain. Not a storm, just a warning. When I slid the door shut, Logan walked out onto the porch. "Wi-Fi's not working." I stared at him. "Figure it out." He blinked. "But you always." "I don't fix things anymore. Not for you." Vanessa stepped outside. "Nathan, please. This is too much." Too much was 8 years of sacrifice without respect. She didn't respond. I climbed into the truck, turned the key, backed down the driveway while they stood there in silence. 3 people suddenly unsure how the house would run without the man they never saw until he was gone. I left quietly, but comfort collapsed loudly. I moved into the apartment on a Tuesday. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, no dishwasher. The kind of place that smelled like primer and faint cigarette smoke no matter how long you left the windows open. The mattress was on the floor. No headboard. No TV. Just a folding table, a coffee maker, and a fridge humming like it hated being alive. But it was mine. No noise. No slammed doors. No tension coiled beneath every mealtime. I sat on the floor with a mug of black coffee and listened to nothing. It was the sweetest sound I'd heard in years. The first week passed in silence. No texts. No calls. I half expected Vanessa to show up. To scream. To cry. To explain. But she didn't. On the 8th day, my phone buzzed. "Logan, Wi-Fi's down. Can you come fix it?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed slowly. "Me, I don't fix things anymore. Not for you." No reply. The silence that followed felt heavier than the words that started it all. A few days later, another message. This time from Aiden. "Aiden, Mom cries every day. You shouldn't have left like that." I didn't answer, because they were only just now noticing. The second week, Vanessa finally called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Her voice was thin, controlled. "Nathan, please call me back. I know things got out of hand, but we're struggling. I just need to know what's happening with the bills. I don't even know when the trash pickup is anymore." I deleted the message. They weren't asking for me. They were asking for the system. The third week, the first cracks appeared. The boiler broke. 3 days without hot water. Aiden texted, "Where's the breaker box again?" Then 5 minutes later, "Never mind. It's flooded." The power went out during a storm. The lights didn't come back on until the next day. The fridge spoiled. They didn't know the surge protector needed to be reset from the garage. The garage I locked before I left, because the tools were mine. Logan missed 2 football practices. No one drove him. Vanessa didn't have time. She was looking for work again. The bills began to stack. Trash collection skipped 2 pickups. The bin overflowed. The neighbors complained. Aiden tried to get a part-time job. Failed the interview. He called, asked how to write a resume. I didn't answer. That month, I saw Vanessa's car outside the grocery store. She didn't see me. She was arguing with the cashier, card declined. Logan stood beside her, eyes wide, cheeks red. I walked past without stopping. Let them feel the cold air. I'd warned them. A month passed. Then 2. The house that used to run like a machine started to seize. Late notices piled on the counter. Rent was behind. Vanessa reached out again, email this time. Subject, utilities. Message, I don't know how any of this works. I can't even find the passwords. I know you're angry, but please, help us keep the lights on. I archived it, because I wasn't angry. I was empty. There's a difference. See, anger has hope. It burns with the belief that something might change if you just yell loud enough. But emptiness is clean. It's a room with no furniture. No echoes, just a door closing behind you. That's what I gave them. Not punishment. Not revenge. Absence. The kind they never thought I'd be capable of. The 3rd month brought the first real collapse. Logan got suspended for skipping class. No one noticed he was gone until the school called. Aiden's grades dropped. Vanessa begged him to focus. He told her to figure it out herself. The fridge broke. She couldn't afford to fix it. The microwave stopped turning on. They called Shane. Of course they did. He showed up, brought a new microwave, stayed long enough to eat dinner, then vanished. Vanessa called me that night. I didn't know it was this bad, she said, her voice shaking. I thought you were just being dramatic. But nothing works without you. Nothing functions. They don't even know how to check the fuse box. I know, I said. Pause. I don't know what to do anymore. That makes 2 of us. I miss you. No, Vanessa. You miss what I did. You miss the labor, the safety, the control. You don't miss me. I heard her breathe in. Then the line went quiet. She didn't call again for a while. But the messages didn't stop. Aiden again. Late at night. Aiden. I said something I didn't mean. You were there more than my real dad ever was. I get it now. But understanding isn't the same as accountability. And I wasn't going to be the one to carry that weight back onto my shoulders. So I let them struggle. And in that struggle, something remarkable happened. They began to learn. Logan fixed a toilet. Badly, but he tried. Aiden started walking to his shifts at a gas station 3 miles away. Vanessa learned how to reset the router. The house didn't run smoothly, but it ran. Barely. They were becoming people, not passengers. One Sunday, I walked past the park and saw Logan there with a rake, cleaning up leaves. He looked older, quieter. Not the smirking boy who mocked me over cereal. He saw me. I nodded. He didn't wave. Just looked down, then kept raking. That was enough. It wasn't peace. But it was recognition. And that's more than I ever got when I was in their home. 6 months after I left, Vanessa emailed again. No subject line. Just a few sentences. We're managing. Barely. The boys are changing. So am I. I'm not asking you to come back. I just wanted to say, I didn't know how much you did until you were gone. I'm sorry for letting them treat you like you were invisible. They were wrong. And so was I. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I closed it. Didn't reply. Because sometimes forgiveness is just another version of being used. And I wasn't ready to be used again. Let them build what I built. Let them patch the roof when it leaks, stretch grocery money, answer questions no one thanks you for answering. Let them learn what real responsibility costs. I gave them 8 years. They gave me 8 seconds of laughter before discarding me like noise. So now they get silence. And silence, I've learned, is a better teacher than I ever was. It was a Thursday night when I heard the knock. Slow, uncertain. Not urgent, just hopeful. I opened the door to find Logan standing there. Hoodie too big, hands jammed in his pockets. No backpack. No attitude. Just a boy who had finally run out of things to lean on. He didn't ask to come in. He just said, "You really left?" I nodded. "Yeah. We didn't think you would." "Not really." "I know." He looked down, then up again. "We figured it out. Eventually." I stepped aside. Let him in. Not as a son. Not as anything close. Just a guest in the silence he once mocked. He sat on the floor. No words for a while. Mom's working again. 2 jobs. Aiden's still doing nights at the station. We don't talk much anymore. I nodded. We didn't know how anything worked. We thought we did. But we didn't. That was the closest he came to an apology. I didn't push for more. He stayed for an hour. Drank a cup of coffee he didn't finish. Looked around at the small, empty apartment like it held answers. Then he left. A month later, Aiden showed up. He didn't knock. Just texted, "Outside if you've got time." I stepped into the hallway. He looked thinner. Eyes tired. Clothes less curated. He said, "I used to think you were trying to replace my dad. I wasn't. I know that now." Silence stretched between us. Then he added, "You were the only adult in that house. That was all." He didn't come in. Didn't ask to. He just said thank you. Once. Quiet. Then left. They still live with Vanessa. I don't know what their dinner table sounds like now. Maybe there's more respect in the silence. Maybe not. I never moved back. I never rejoined the system I built. But sometimes Logan texts. Small things. Is this the right socket for the mower? What's the best way to patch drywall? And I answer. Not because I'm trying again. Not because I forgive. But because I want the lesson to stay. You cannot spit on a foundation and expect it to hold you. You cannot mock the hands that feed you and be shocked when they stop. They thought I was a fixture. A resource. A man with no limits. But I was just a man. A man who gave until giving meant vanishing. Sometimes I think back to the day I left. How quiet it was. How small they all seemed when I drove away. And I wonder, would they have said what they said if they had known what it would cost? If they had known silence was the price of their contempt? I don't know. But I know this. Sometimes walking away isn't cruelty. Sometimes It's the only way to let the world teach what you never could. So I ask you, whoever's listening, was I wrong to leave? Was I wrong to let the weight finally fall into their hands? Or was that the only way they'd ever feel how heavy I'd been carrying them all along? Would you have endured it longer? Would you have stayed?